10 years ago, if I told you that you could fit all of these devices in your front right pocket, what would you say? Probably that I'm mad. But now we see, thanks to the innovation of the smartphone, this is no longer a dream. Technology is growing almost as faster than the blink of an eye. As technology is dominating over the world, thanks to the innovations in the fields of science and engineering, we can see that industries are becoming far more productive and far more efficient. But as technology is automating industries, there's a massive toll on human jobs. One could always say that a computer is better than a human when it comes to repetitive tasks and computational functions. But humans will always have the upper hand when it comes to one crucial and special ability, and that is none other than the fantastic human creativity. We've entered a day and age where being creative is no longer an option, but an absolute must for you to survive and thrive in the future. We've often heard the term that things get better and better with age. For learning, the general notion is that children learn from far more experienced beings called adults, who spend far more time on earth. Now, this may be true when it comes to certain things like tacit knowledge that adults gain through experience. But as an educator, I've often learned that when it comes to creativity, this is the other way around. Children, when born, have so much of passion and creativity that, unfortunately, as a result of our poor education systems, we squash. But I'm not here to talk to you about that. I'm here to share some experiences of what I learned about creativity from kids that managed to resist these traditional methods and really let their inborn creativity shine. So for my first learning, I will take something I learned from this kid, Isitha. Isitha's mother likes to bake cakes at home, and she often gets Isitha to help him in preparing these ingredients. Now, if you baked a cake, you know that there is quite a lot of tasks that you need to do before you bake the actual cake. From measuring the ingredients, to separating the eggs, to sifting the flour. When Isitha's mom bakes cakes, she actually asks Isitha to help him in the preparation process. And Isitha often observes his mother as she's doing these tasks. What Isitha found was that the most challenging and time-consuming task for his mother was the process of sifting the flour. If you've really tried it yourself, you know that sifting the flour can be quite a time-consuming and tiresome task. Isitha created this ingenious creation that he called an electric flour sifting machine that enabled his mother to sift the flour automatically. What he basically did was use concepts of engineering that is taught in second or third year of engineering college, and he created a fantastic innovation that helped his mother overnight. What Isitha really did was he empathized with his mother by putting himself in her shoes. Isitha's goal was not just to help his mother once, but create a way that would enable her to solve this problem forever. By empathizing with his mother, Isitha was able to identify the most burning issue, and he selected the flour sifting problem, and he started there. While working with kids all around Sri Lanka in helping them being creative, I found kids finding solutions to problems that they found simply by observing deeply. From an 8-year-old girl who created a head massaging device for her father simply because she saw how much of stress he was in after work, to a 10-year-old boy who created a vegetable cutting machine to help his mother to cut the vegetables because she was spending too much of time in the kitchen. Children also care a lot, really, really deeply. They want to help people's lives better. For example, this kid Moksha created a flood detection device simply because, I quote, "I'm so sad to see the amount of people who die every year because of floods in Sri Lanka." Or this kid Ravidu, who created a prototype of an electric well that enabled his old grandmother to pull water from the well without injuring herself. All these amazing examples show how kids don't just empathize and find the problem, but also action and make lives better. Isn't this really, really wonderful? Through empathy, you are able to identify the root cause of the problem. You then apply your creative thinking and come up with solutions to solve these adversities. A deep understanding of a problem is the first step towards being creative. So my first learning for all of you today is, for you to be creative, you need to have empathy. Moving on to our second lesson, I wanted to take something I learned from this kid right here, Hasti. Now, I've known Hasti for quite a long time, and I've watched him play since he was a very small kid. Chances are, if you've actually met Hasti, you have definitely heard the term, Jahanaya, did you know that there is more than 80,000 components in a Formula 1 car? Or, Jahanaya, did you know that Pluto is no longer part of the solar system? The did you knows are never ending. Whether it's a good day or a bad day, Hasti always has a did you know fact ready to share. Working with children all around the world, I've often found myself to be bombarded by questions all the time. From things like how does this work to how does that work, what this is and what that is. Children always ask questions. They love to do that. As adults, generally what we do is we silence them. And this is a grave, grave mistake. This kid here is Binuk. A few years ago, I started teaching Binuk electronics. And on the first day, I taught Binuk how to use a light bulb and a battery and to make it light up. Now, if you tried it yourself, you know that lighting a light bulb from a battery is an exciting thing, almost even magical. After Binuk did this, he started asking me all these questions like, what are the two LEDs standing for? What happens if I change the battery? Or what happens if I put a larger battery to this? Quite impressed by his sense of curiosity, I tried to answer as many questions as I possibly could. The next day, what really happened was really, really marvelous. Binuk comes to me and shows a very ingenious creation that he calls a handy torch. What he's done is he's taken 4 LEDs and he's connected them together and fitted it inside 2 bottle lids to form a fantastic torch that he could carry around in his pocket. Binuk combined the learnings that he had in class with the questions that he asked from me, and he did further research on it to identify concepts by himself, find components, and build a working innovation. With information access becoming easier day by day because of technology, children find it more easier to gather knowledge and share knowledge. This ability of them to not just gather but also share knowledge is an integral part of developing their creativity. We've been brought up in an education system that unfortunately feeds us knowledge rather than actually teach us how to learn. We should never ever forget that we were all born with a very important ability called learnability. Learnability is, simply put, our ability to learn. And this is what enables a child to learn how to sing and dance and jump and scream. Over the years, we seem to have lost our sense of learnability and are now constantly bored to learn new things. If you do not have this ability to learn new things, it's extremely challenging for you to be creative. Unfortunately, as we begin our career, we tend to segregate ourselves and box ourselves into a comfort zone. Some say, I'm in engineering. Some say, I'm in sales or marketing. This is my job. This is what I do, and this is what I don't do. We simply stop exploring and stop learning. But when it comes to a kid, if you travel with one, you know the amount of questions that they ask. From, are we there yet? Where are we now? Which city is this? How do the engine work? A child is always asking questions. A child turns the rock the other way around. They take an egg from the fridge and try to drop it. Now, most of these actions result in an adult saying no, but the child finds a way to explore somehow. So my second learning for all of you today is, for you to be creative, you need to ask questions and explore. Moving on to my final learning, I've also taken an example of something I learned from Hasti. A Few months ago, I bought him a Lego Technic kit that enabled him to make a fantastic creation, as I remember, a truck. Of course, building this truck was a breeze for Hasti. He was able to do it in a matter of minutes. So naturally, a few weeks afterwards, I bought him another kit, this time that enabled him to make a forklift. What was extremely impressive was that every single time that I visited Hasti, he had used his imagination to combine these two kits and come up with an extremely creative invention every single time. One week it was a helicopter, the other week a motorcycle, and the other week an actual robotic arm. Quite intrigued to see how his imaginative capability is, I watched him engage in the making process. Would you like to see it as well? As you can see over here, as Hasti is engaged in the making process, he is using his imagination to come up with ideas and translating those ideas into what he is doing in terms of the actions. As an educator, I have experimented with this concept of allowing kids to build creations using materials that they find in their surrounding. I've encouraged kids to use things like popsicle sticks, straws, bottle lids, even old CDs to design their own creations. Hasti himself created this amazing replica of a Formula 1 car for my last birthday using just popsicle sticks and bottle lids. Isn't this pretty cool? I've seen kids creating drones to rocket ships to underwater submarines, all using their imagination. Now, most of these creations don't really work, but what is very, very impressive is this child's ability to not just come up with that idea, but also go ahead and execute it. For a child, a stick can become a wand, a sword, and even a lightsaber all in one afternoon. A stick is not just a stick for them because someone told them that it's a stick. They've even used a stick to draw a circle around them and call it their secret base that you are not allowed into. And maybe in the evening, they'll get bored and say that you are allowed back in. A child always changes the rules of the game for it to be more interesting. This ability of a child to imagine is what enables them to ultimately be creative without any sort of hesitation. For a child, they do not care what is said to be possible and especially impossible. So my final learning for all of you here today is, for you to be creative, you need to have a deep sense of imaginative thinking. So my recipe for you is very simple. If you want to be creative just like a child, you need to have empathy, ask questions and explore, and above all, have a deep sense of imagination. You may seem to think that you have lost your creativity as a result of the system, but trust me, it can be rediscovered. Simply have empathy, ask questions and explore, and above all, have a deep sense of imaginative thinking, and you will be able to find your creativity again. Creativity is originality and standing out from the crowd. In an era where being creative is nothing but an absolute must, creativity is originality and standing out from the crowd. As I said, with the rapid changes in technology, being creative is nothing but an absolute must to have. You still can discover your creativity because remember, the moment that you really stop trying is actually the moment that you really stop growing. Thank you and God bless you all.